Hello and welcome to King's Arthur Knight's Tale Ultimate Guide. What we're gonna cover in this guide would be the entire Camelot all buildings upgrades for the hardest difficulty in the game, very hard difficulty, as well as all champions, all skills, morality choices, loyalty for your companions, as well as itemization, and at the end I'll show you how every class works and how you should play on the hardest difficulty, positioning, target prioritizing, and so on and so forth. This is one of the hardest games that I played in the recent history on its hardest difficulty, of course. And it's extremely fun because you have a feeling like you're playing against an actual human instead of an AI. AI is just brilliant. They know what to focus, who to focus, when to back off, when to avoid your overwatch, when to go for your squishes, when to go for a kill. Absolutely amazing AI, and the right way to play this game and to experience a real challenge is on its hardest difficulty. So let's begin. So let's start from morality chart. Here, as you can see, you can be rightful or a tyrant, you can be Christian or old faith. So, rightful old faith, rightful Christian, tyrant old faith, and tyrant Christian. The best way for a very hard difficulty and the best skill in the game that you can acquire is Joust from a rightful Christian. My advice, go with this spot if you want to play on the hardest difficulty, because Joust is just straight amazing. All of these other skills that you see, I know you're gonna read through all of them. Trust me, they do not matter like 10% of how important Joust is. Alright, there is no replacement for this in the entire morality chart. This is the most important. Now I can go through every other single icon, but as I'm telling you, none compares to this. This is the most important. After that, it doesn't matter. Once you decide to go as rightful, stick with rightful choices. Because if you pick a tyrant choice, it's gonna go down instead of going up. Okay? So you're basically wasting points if you go rightful tyrant, rightful tyrant. Just stick with straight up rightful, straight up Christian. Or if you decide to play with tyrant old faith, stick with those two. Camelot, from where you start your castle, your dungeon, where you're gonna prepare for the upcoming missions. As you start the game, all of these buildings won't be available. You're gonna build them one by one, and eventually it's gonna end up looking like this with their own personal upgrades. Okay, so what is the most important building in the game? At the start, it's Hospice, so you can recover vitality, Cathedral, so you can recover from injuries, Merchant, so you can buy some potions for the start, okay? And of course, Training Ground, mid-game and onwards, so you can level up your heroes, champions, companions, call them however you like. Enchanted Tower is the last building upgrade that you should aim for, and you should start aiming for it once you acquire Sir Hector, later about it. The first one is the round table. And what you see on the left would be the upgrades. As you acquire your companions, they gonna ramp up here, so you can transfer them down there, so they become active, okay? So, once you have like 6 spots and you acquire 2 new companions, you're gonna upgrade, get those 2 hero slots available, and transfer them down, alright? Now, same applies. On 8 spots, when you got 2 more available, you ramp up into leadership 2, then you ramp up into leadership 3 until you have full slots available for your champions. So these are mandatory upgrades in the round table. The most important in the round table for the early game would be a laws upgrade that's gonna unlock extra progress, so you can gain 10% more experience from missions. Grab it as soon as possible. After laws, you should straight aim for decrease. Why? I explained you in morality chart. It's gonna provide Joust. I'll explain how Joust works later on. as well as gaining extra gold, or basically trading your resources for gold, or gold for resources, or later on in a game you'll have special decrees, depends on what morality chart you picked over here. Passing a second law at the same time is a waste of money. As you progress through the game, you're gonna unlock court titles, where you're gonna drag and drop companions, okay, inside of these circles, and they're gonna get extra loyalty. When companion gets extra loyalty, he gets bonus damage during battles, and at the end, for full loyalty, he gets bonus action point. Now, same goes when they go into negative, they receive huge penalties, so be smart what companions you pick and make that loyalty as high as you can during missions, events, and so on. There is one final thing to do in a round table, and it's to appoint a Grandmaster. I found this one to be extremely good as the Grandmaster, alright, because it gives extra loyalty to all rightful heroes. Now let's transfer to Cathedral. Okay, so I found that I needed only one extra slot to heal companions from injuries, cause I learned how to play safe. I believe that everything that goes above it is a waste of resources, so if you know what you're doing, you won't need Expansion 2 and Expansion 3 slot. What I also took out of here, I took Herbalist for potions to last one more turn during encounters, I took Healing Friars for faster injury treatment, and I took Liquid Power. When I use potions, they do not cost any action points during encounter, but all of those that you see are late game, this 3. Okay, you do them once you have resources, you just don't invest into them at the start of the game. It's a big no to invest into this. This is for mega late game, this 3 upgrades. The only important one early on would be Expansion 1. How you heal, I guess it's very easy to learn and understand through the game. If you have an injured character, it's gonna show up like this, with minor injuries or major injuries. Minor take less time, major take more time, more missions to heal. There is a fast way with quick healing, okay, but it always costs, so be smart with your resources. The next building would be the Merchant. The only important early upgrade with the Merchant would be Craftsman, so the relics, these orange items, best items in the game, can appear from time to time so you can buy them. All other upgrades are completely unimportant and you're gonna get them mega late game, okay, post level 15 or 16, something like that. So the only thing that you need is Craftsman. Make sure to appoint someone that's good as being a court chandler. Next building that we're gonna go to, a very important building early on, would be Hospice. You need to unlock that second hero slot so you can heal vitality faster. Number 3 and number 4 are not that important, they're for late game. Now all of this perma vitality, regain vitality, and again perma vitality, completely unimportant. You can easily play on the hardest difficulty without it, plus it costs a lot. You're better off with buying some good relic item. What you can grab early on are medical tools and medicines. Okay, they're not that important, but they're cheap, so you can grab them early on. This too. Make sure to appoint a champion that got Hospice in their traits into this building. The next and one of the most important buildings, mid-game and onwards, okay, would be the training ground. You need to unlock the entire training ground and you need to rush it down as fast as you can. Why? Because when you go, you can pick up 4 champions to go on a mission. That means that all of these are doing nothing while you go on a mission. They don't earn XP. How do they earn XP? You put them inside and you said train, train, train. Okay, and you see he's gonna level up in 1 mission, he's gonna level up in 3, he's gonna level up in 2. You want them to level up faster, okay? That thing also costs. It would be nice tournament, and if you click on this, now they're gonna level up in 1 mission only. One of the most important upgrades early on in the game would be basic physical training. Extremely important one for the start would also be training dummy. After you're done with these two and after you unlock expansion 1, 2 and 3 so you can level up all of your companions, the next important upgrade would be advanced physical training. Mordred, your main character in the game, is extremely good as Master of Arms in the game. The heroes that died will be in your crypt with a Scroll of Resurrection. You can always pick and resurrect them. The last building would be Enchanted Tower. Enchanted Tower is mid-game and onwards. Okay, not important early game. You need Sir Hector as the Master of Magic, because he's gonna provide more relic dust per mission. Alright, the more relic dust you have, the more relics you can buy. Alright, the best items in the game. Remember that those relics that you do not use, you do not sell them at merchant, you will melt them down and gain relic dust so you can buy better items. Joust and how it works, the most important thing in the game. So, once you have Joust available in your morality chart, it's gonna appear over here. And it has 5 missions cooldown. The moment you see it open, that's when you're gonna buy Joust for 900. But before buying it and skipping 1 mission time, you're gonna place all of those that you wanna level up in a training ground. You're gonna place all of those that you wanna heal vitality into Hospice, and all of those that you wanna treat injuries and so on in a Cathedral. And outside of the map, you will want to check all events, place champions and events, get back to Camelot, and once you covered events, training ground, Hospice and Cathedral, that's the time that you should click on Joust. So everyone heals up, recovers injuries, level up, and you're good to go for the next mission. That's the entire trick with Joust. After that, it's gonna be unavailable for 5 rounds. Make sure to have extra tribute, extra gold, alright? And so on. But always, always take Joust whenever you can. Just do not forget about how you're using it. This needs to be full, this needs to be full, this needs to be full. And then you click on Joust. The most important skill in morality chart. The most important thing to buy before missions would be healing potions, armor potions, action point potions, damage percentage potions, and so on. They are way much more important than buying classical items. You will get gear once you're done with missions, so don't focus that much on a gear unless it's some perfect relic and you wanna invest into it. As you make progress through the game, you're gonna uncover challenges. Okay, and every challenge will provide a specific potion that's gonna give a specific trait to the champion that drinks it. For example, on Mordred, I took +2 injury tokens, so he doesn't get injured during missions. I took him to be invulnerable on knockdown, to be invulnerable on stuns, and to have additional block. All you need to do is hover over a potion, drink it up, and you're good to go. Now, be smart how you pick. We're gonna pass through all of that later on, but that's just a small suggestion that you keep checking those challenges, and you can clearly see what every challenge provides. This game consists out of 5 or 6 different classes, it doesn't matter, and a mix out of all classes together. Depends on who you want to play with. These are only like what, 12, 14 champions here, and inside of this there's still more, and then you have like there's Merlin, then there's this 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus 2 in the crypt, 12, 13, 24, from 25 to 30 different heroes, different champions in a game, okay? These are the ones I completed the game with, okay, for the hardest difficulty. This was my option, alright? There were OP characters, we're gonna pass through them too, but let's focus on these for now. As I said, 5 classes, Mordred being a defender as the main class. There is a classic Marksman, okay, with Dindrain, Sir Boars, and so on. There's classic Rogue, Vanguard, best damage dealer in the game. There are melee Arcanists and ranged Arcanists like Hector or Merlin, or there is a melee one as Fury Knight. There are classic champions, two-handed beasts, okay, with good durability and solid damage. And at the end we got sages. They are classic supports that give action points, can freeze enemies, boost your damage, boost your HP, and so on. All of these classes that you see can also be a mix of a sage and arcanist, of a defender and a champion, of a vanguard and marksman, and so on and so forth. It depends on who you decide to recruit, it depends on this morality chart, it depends whether you're a tyrant, rightful, Christian, old faith, it depends who you pick on some main missions also. So let's pass and see what are the most important spells, skills, and how you should correctly level up, starting up straight with the main character. No matter what path you pick, in morality chart, Mordred will remain like this. So let's begin. As far as tokens go, okay, traits, call it however you like, from challenges. I took injury tokens for him, immunity to knockdown, immunity to stun, cause he is a bloody tank after all, and extra block to mitigate damage even further. For armor, you always want the best heavy armor available in the game for Mordred, because let's be real, you're gonna play the most, like 99% of the missions with Mordred, okay? And the best, absolutely the best thing that you can take on your armor is that the champion always turn towards the attacking unit. That's like late game armor, but I need to say it, that's the most important stat on a heavy armor that you can grab. As far as sword go, the more damage the better, okay? Be smart about it. If it has some extra ability like apply vulnerability or so on, bring it on and equip on Mordred. Do not forget to equip potions before you go on a mission. The most important potions on Mordred would be classic heal HP and armor potions. Anything that brings armor basically. What I found extremely useful on Mordred would be Bone Spike's trinket. Okay, it's gonna come around mid-game and you're gonna keep it till the end of the game because Bone Spikes are absolutely amazing skill that only costs 1 action point. Before you grab that, you should always aim for bigger HP, bigger armor, or any skill that will provide towards your shield charge, towards stigma, and so on. Same applies for the other trinket. As you can see, this one is shield charge based. You charge with a shield and then you deal more damage against units that you knock down with your shield. Mordred is a classic tank, but for some reason Mordred is the only defender in the game without taunt, and taunt is probably the best spell in the game that you can grab on a defender class. No matter what other defender I click, for example Sir Galahad, you will see taunt. Taunt is like bread and butter skill for defenders. Mordred is without it. So what is the most important skill on Mordred? For the early game, it would be shield charge. If you play smart, cast vulnerability into shield charge, you're gonna eliminate one enemy in the first round, or prolong fight with him for at least 2 rounds. This is your magic combo, vulnerability into shield charge. For the mid game, the most important skill would be Thunderbolt, so you can stun your enemies. Do not forget to take armor, and of course classic stats up. Late game you're gonna boost robust, you're gonna boost strength and so on, but I told you this 3, early game this 2, this 1 mid game. Late game, the most important would be shield block with these 2 passives over here. And of course hardened armor, so you reduce your armor loss by 20%. After that, late game, you're gonna go with robust, and now it's your choice whether you want recuperate, whether you want chain lightning or all resists. I recommend chain lightning, but basically it's your choice. As long as you stick with this 3 and you take block end game with hardened armor and robust everywhere, you are good to go with Mordred. I said we talk about defenders, so other defenders like Sir Peleas or Sir Galahad here, or the Red Knight and so on, they got Taunt, okay, and this is the most important thing that you're gonna grab mid-game. Taunt, and you're gonna upgrade every mini circle for Taunt. Your every defender should have Shield Charge and Taunt. Of course, block as for Mordred, and at the end Hardened Armor. But this is the skill of choice for every defender. This is how you defend your allies. This is how you prolong the game for at least 2 turns, where you have chance to kill all of your enemies while they're taunted. Next class in a game would be Marksman. There are plenty of Marksmen in the game, but I only kept Dindrain as one. There's Sir Bors, there's... where was the one? I think it was Gerant, okay, or Damas. I think it was Damas, it doesn't matter. There are plenty of them, and most of them are very similar. You either have a Fire Marksman, Fire Arrow Marksman, Lightning Arrow Marksman, or a Poison Marksman. So how to play Marksman and what to build on Marksman. What you see here is what you should take if you decide to go for Fire. Fire and Pyromania, okay. Where you have explosive arrows, basically all enemies that are close together will receive fire damage, okay, and then you pick them off with shoot that deals extra damage towards fire. Same applies if you decide to go with poison. You poison them and then you shoot them. Once they get close to you, you gonna, during mid game of course, you gonna dash out and backstab with aim shot, or with classic shoot, doesn't matter. What you see is right now from all of these skills for Marksman is how you should play them and how you should distribute your points. The build that I'm playing here on Lady Dindrain, she is completely valid, like defenders, from level 1 to max level. Okay, one of the very few classes that is valid throughout the entire game. She is very solid early game, mega carry during mid game, and good carry during late game. The most important armor for your archer would be this one. Dodge, dodge, dodge. Dodge the first attack, dodge the first incoming opportunity attack, then in passives first dodge, okay? You can accumulate 3 or 4 free dodge attempts so she doesn't receive damage. That applies for every other marksman. You do not want your marksman to get hit because they're very squishy. And this is the most important stat that you can grab from armor. As far as other weapons go, if you go with fire, you go with fire rings, okay. If you go with poison, you go with poison rings. For weapon, again, when you go with fire, fire bows. When you go with poison, poison bows. Okay, I even think there is a poison bow over here. There you go. You see the difference? We picked Dindrain here as a explosives fire damage, okay? So we stick to flat damage bows. What I took on her for these challenges, potions, traits, is more damage against picts, additional burning damage cause she deals fire. This one is also good on Hector, additional burning damage on Sir Hector, and on Merlin, if you acquired Merlin during your campaign. Additional perception, so you can spot hidden chests and loot, and additional damage against Seelie and Unseelie. What's the difference between other archers and Dindrain? Instead of, for example, Toxic Poison Bomb, they're gonna have lightning arrows that can stun. Or instead of Fire Arrow, they're gonna have Poison Arrow and Crippling Arrow, so you can slow down your enemies with your arrows. It's your pick what you wanna do, but I believe there are champions that are way much better for crowd control skills and abilities than the actual marksman. I believe that on a very hard difficulty you should have a marksman that deals most damage and has the biggest damage output, and that would be Dindrain with explosive arrows. Early game for Dindrain, shoot and fire arrows extremely important, as well as scout first dodge. Mid game, dash so you can get out of trouble, very important. After that, of course, Pyromania that combines extremely well with fire arrows, and at the end you're gonna take aim shot. Mega late game, extremely important. Evasion that ramps up with your armor and that ramps up with first dodge. She becomes invulnerable for at least 2 rounds. The rest for the late game doesn't matter at all. This is the most important one. The one that's also very good would be Prepared from long reach for that extra damage during the first attack in the encounter. Up to Vanguards, or better to say, classic rogues, backstabbers. Alright. One of the best examples, and the one you're gonna grab first early game, would be Sir Balin. After that, you're gonna grab Boudicca, Sir Tegir, Sir Tristian, Sir Bedivere. All of those would be rogues. What's the difference between them? Well, for example, some of them instead of jump have sprint available. Some of them instead of a poison trap or a gas trap have a lightning trap available. Some of them instead of assassination or a counter attack have dodge available, 15% to dodge and so on. But basically all of them are there for one purpose only: hide, go behind enemy lines and take out those squishes with insane damage and with insane backstabs, surprise damage. All Vanguards, or better to say rogues, suck ass early game and they're extremely weak, and the only useful skill that you can get out of them would be traps to deal damage to your enemies and slow them down. That's the early game. During mid game you will see the glimpse of how powerful they can be, but they still suck. During late game it might be the strongest class in the game, cause damage just goes berserk with backstabs, with assassination, with ramping up damage, jumping behind enemies, okay, hiding in plain spot, and doing classic backstabbing surprise damage. So the most important spell that you're gonna learn early game would be Bear Traps, and then you upgrade it to the max. Later on, once you reach level 15 and above, you reset skill points with a reset book, okay, reset hero skill points. You eliminate Bear Trap and you go into the build that you see here. Exactly copy paste the same, okay. The most important would be max out jump, max out hide, take it like this for your basic attack, alright. From the mid it doesn't matter, to be honest, this is the most important: backstabs and assassination, okay. Everything else doesn't matter that much. This is your damage output. How you do it: you hide, you go to your enemy, you backstab them with surprise damage, you go back, you hide, you backstab them again, and that's the entire point. I'm gonna show it later. If you deal bleeding damage with your rogue Vanguard, then you're gonna have bleed on your weapon. If you deal poison, you're gonna use poison. If you can acquire a relic like this that has a chance to deal double damage, make sure to use it on your rogue, because it's freaking broken with surprise attack and backstab attack when it procs and deals double damage. Any armor on rogue that gives extra action points is a great option. Mega late game, you will become immune to opportunity attacks, so having extra action points to go behind enemy lines is absolutely crucial. Trinkets, they're exactly the same. Anything that's gonna boost damage and apply extra action points is your most important choice for your rogue. What I took for potions from challenges on a rogue would be additional poison damage, cause he deals poison damage when he backstabs, and the selected hero will receive less damage from ranged attacks, because ranged enemies will target your rogue the most after your marksman. Next in line would be Arcanists. You got melee Arcanist as a Fairy Knight and probably the strongest unit in the game. I'll explain why also for the hardest difficulty. And ranged Arcanists that deal damage from afar or with different hexes that gonna neutralize your enemies, like slow, bleeding. They lose their vitality, so you can one-shot them easier with your rogue, okay, and so on. There is also Merlin, that's extreme damage, okay, and he can juke enemies with teleport and illusions and so on, but let's stick with these two for now, cause Hector is quite similar to Merlin, okay, and we're gonna pass through both of them. As far as melee Arcanists go, you're gonna get Fairy Knight on around level 13, 14, 15, it doesn't matter, so this is a late game hero that you get, and probably the strongest one. What you see here from skills is how you should invest points if you wanna play on the hardest difficulty. So let me sum it all up in short. He TPs behind enemy lines, he one-shots them with backstabs, then he's extremely tanky during the first round, he can dodge 30% out of this two, and he can mitigate 4 hits with Ice Shield. That means, to sum it all up, that he can avoid damage for 2 or 3 rounds in a row where you'll be able to burst your enemies. The strongest unit in the game would be Fairy Knight, a melee Arcanist. What I gave him from those challenges potions, I gave him Spellcraft, I gave him additional action points, and I gave him Armor Break, because he's gonna TP behind enemies and nuke them. Any armor that's gonna give him action points is good to go. The more and the bigger number of damage on a staff is the way to go. There is nothing to think about, just take the staff that deals most damage. If you can acquire a staff that has a chance to deal double damage, it can be absolutely broken. For trinkets, again, anything that's gonna give action points, you're good to go. Basically, for every class, action points are the most important in the game. This is the potion that you're gonna use a lot on Fairy Knight to reset cooldown for all skills. Why? When you open up, you go in with him with teleport that's gonna be on cooldown, okay? And with Ice Shield that's gonna be on cooldown. If the fight is extremely hard, you chug a refreshing potion and then you have teleport and Ice Shield available again, so you can prolong the fight for at least 3 or 4 rounds of invulnerability. Out of 10 hits, he's gonna dodge 3 or 4 hits because of extra dodge. He's gonna mitigate at least 8 hits with refreshing potions, okay? And he's gonna mitigate at least 2 or 3 hits with his magical armor. That's a bloody lot. That's like 15 hits of invulnerability. OP class that I just don't know if there is anything as close as good as Fairy Knight in the game for the hardest difficulty. Now, speaking about Arcanist, mages, you're gonna acquire Sir Hector early game. This is gonna be your first Arcanist and the one that you're gonna use the most in the game. Sir Hector is extremely important to be here in Enchanted Tower, so he provides Relic Dust. Other than that, the most important skill early game for Sir Hector would be, of course, his Force Bolt, okay, so you can knock your enemies back. And of course, Hex. You're gonna do it like I did it here. You do not take mass Hex, you take single target Hex, because Hex intensity is gonna drop by 40% if you decide to go with area of effect. You're better off while hexing one single unit to stay put for 2 or 3 rounds. You usually do it on bosses, on tankiest enemies, enemies with most damage, okay? They become useless once you put slowing Hex on them. So for early game, you're gonna max out Force Bolt, you're gonna go with Hex, slowing Hex, and you're gonna go with long reach and extra damage. During mid game, you can opt in to play him as a Hexer with Death Hex and Blood Hex into Master of Hexes, or you can opt in to go with a Fire Blast, Wall of Flame into Master of Fire late game. This is your choice how you wanna play him. I played him as a damage dealer, AoE damage dealer with a slow Hex. Okay, you can play him as a low damage dealer, Force Bolt, Knockback with all Hexes combined. It depends how you wanna play him. So 2 options available here. If you like damage dealing mages like I do, then you're gonna opt in for Fire Blast, Wall of Flame and Master of Fire. Same build that you're gonna use on Merlin. Okay, exactly the same build if you wanna play Merlin. If not, then you're gonna play him as a Hexer. That applies for every other Arcanist in the game too. All ranged Arcanists can be played as damage dealing or Hexers. Alright, make sure to have 1 Hexer and 1 damage dealer. And of course there's Broken Fury Knight as a war mage, if you can even call him a mage. Now we go to champions. Champions are classic two-handers, okay, that can soak up damage and deal damage. What's the difference behind all of those champions that you see here? Some of them come with damage boost, some of them come with bleeding, okay, with cleave, some of them are good against the undead, the last, okay, breaking armor, some of them are great eliminators with death strike, alright? Those would be all the things that are different with champions, okay? For example, Lancelot can charge, he can blind enemies. This one has an Earth Shaker, he can nuke enemies down with Death Strike, and is the first champion that you're gonna get in a game, Sir K, so we're gonna stick with Sir K probably out of all of these champions here, but I'll explain how champions work and what you should aim for. Basically, what I found the most useful in the entire game for champions early game would be cleave. If you position well, you can nuke enemies down with cleave. Rage is very important, so you can stack up damage as you're killing enemies. And Death Strike would be the boss killer. If the boss has armor, then you're gonna nuke him down with power attack. So you reduce their armor, and then you're gonna use Death Strike. For mid-game, bread and butter spell for every champion would be Earth Shaker, and there is no better one. Of course, you need to take armor, so you get those extra action points on every champion. For late game, damage focus is the most important one, as well as hardened armor. Now, how do we rank champions? Champions are extremely good during early game. They fall off a bit in mid game, but you can still use them. And they become completely useless after level 15, because they are far better classes and combos, and you just don't need champions anymore. They will carry you through early game, they will be a good assistance during mid game, and this is when they become useless. How to play champions? Basically what you're gonna take is a weapon that has action points or that deals boost damage, okay? You're gonna always wait on the first round, I'll explain how it works later on. For armor, any armor that can make your champion turn towards the striking unit is great, but for early game, some armors with boosted stats, okay, the more HP, more armor, unbreakable armor, that's good to take. Early game also, you might be able to acquire Curse of the Last, because you're gonna fight a lot against the Last, and this is gonna be like minus total HP for all the Last on the map, which is also very good. As far as trinkets go, damage trinkets, trinkets that boost area of effect, trinkets that boost defensive stance, trinkets that gonna boost your damage, that gonna boost cleave, okay, that gonna have additional armor break. All of those trinkets are valid on champions. Make sure to have like 2 or 3 champions during early game and mid game, okay. One should be a specialist against armored enemies, okay, like Sir Balan here, with power attack, and he should be able to soak up some damage with defensive stance, while for example Sir K will remain behind him and wait for enemies to lose armor to execute them with Death Strike, or he will be very good against enemies that can bleed. Undead cannot bleed, okay, but still Picts or Seelie, Unseelie, they can bleed, and Cleave will deal tremendous damage towards them. Mega late game, you're gonna receive a mix of a champion and a sage in Sir Lancelot. Alright, and what's the entire difference with him? You're gonna charge into enemies, you're gonna give action points to your entire team, and you're gonna blind enemies around you, and you're gonna pray that they're gonna miss you. That's the entire difference between Lancelot and other champions. Lancelot is a special champion oriented towards late game. The last in line would be sages. For me personally, the weakest class in a game, cause they are just weak. They got crowd control, they got bonus action points to your entire squad, okay? Some of them can freeze, some of them can dash, some of them can teleport, some of the sages will have freeze damage, okay, like Mordred's mother, Morgavze, okay, but I ditched her because I kept this team. Some of them will have lightning damage. Sages, they are basically a mix of a Vanguard and a mage, okay? They don't deal damage like Vanguards, and they do not deal damage like mages. There's something in between with supportive spells. The best option on every sage is to have Inspire, so you can boost action points on your allies. After that, it would be Ice Shield on sages, like on Lady Morgavse, so they can soak up damage. Ice Shield might be the best spell in the game, to be honest, where you can apply Ice Shield, of course. And the third most important spell on those sages would be Freezing Attack, so you turn your enemies into an ice cube. There are plenty of different sages in the game, at least 5 or 6 more. I wasn't using them, okay, because I really don't find them that useful and very hard, but they can be fun. When are sages the strongest? During missions where you get to pick like 4 companions to bring them on, and then you receive a sage as a 5th companion, okay? That's when sages shine, because they can give extra action points to 4 other team members. Alright. What are the most important items on sages? Basically any item that's gonna give action points. If it's a freeze sage, you search for trinkets with freeze, frozen, chill. If it's a lightning sage, you search trinkets with lightning, okay? If it's a backstabbing teleporting sage, then you're gonna search for backstab damage. So, what are the best companions in the game? Very simple. From classes, defenders, valid from level 1 to max level. The most important skill that Mordred doesn't have as a defender would be Taunt, but he ramps it all up with Lightning Strike, Thunderbolt. After Taunt and Thunderbolt on Mordred, the most important would be Shield Charge for defenders. As I said again, valid from level 1 to max level. Marksman, always good to have, especially explosive marksman, extremely good during mid-game, solid during early game and late game. Vanguard, very weak early on, solid mid-game, probably the strongest late game. Fiery Knight is a special story, probably the strongest companion in the game, as Arcanist, melee Arcanist. Classic mage Arcanists, hexers, or damage dealers like Sir Ector or Merlin, alright? And champions, they're gonna carry you out during early game. Sages are something in between damage and support skills. The first 6 you see here, Mordred, Dindrain, Balin, Fiery Knight, Ector, and Galahad, are those that carried me on very hard, okay, during the entire game. And these were the ones I used the most. During early game, I used Sir Kay and Balan a lot, as well as Lanval. Very good champions that I didn't use were Lady Boudica as a Vanguard rogue, Sir Gawain, but you pick between Fiery Knight and Sir Gawain, and I just couldn't resist Fiery Knight, but Sir Gawain is also great, but he's a defender. Mordred is also a defender, and this is the only melee mage in the game, okay? So, Fiery Knight all the way. Lady Morgavse, Mordred's mother, is the one that you're gonna acquire if you do not acquire Merlin, okay? You're gonna pick who you want, Merlin or Morgavse. Morgavse is a ice thunder sage with an ice shield and so on. Melee sage, she is extremely good, while Merlin is a damage dealing distraction mage, Arcanist. It's your choice who you wanna play with. They're extremely good, both of them, but I just never found time to level them up and to play with them because they came during mid-game and I already assembled my team and who I wanna play with. The same can be said about Lady Morgana, Sir Gerand, Sir Bedivere, Lady Isolde. All of those characters are great, but I guess you should take them on some other paths, not for the Rightful Christian path. And Rightful Christian path provides Joust, which is the best thing in the game. So how to play you got 30 different characters to play with, okay? I'll try to cover as much as I can and explain you how to position. For example, these two enemies are close by. We know that once he kills someone, for example, Fairy Knight, he's gonna strike the target that's close by. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna teleport behind an enemy, alright? You're gonna cast Ice Shield, so you mitigate damage from everyone else, and you're gonna burst the living shit out of the first enemy that you grab. This way, he kills one, okay, or you need to kill undead, alright, it doesn't count for undead, you need to kill undead for him to strike the other one. Once they start ramping up on him, he's gonna soak up a lot of damage, he's gonna dodge some and so on, which leaves open the rest of the classes. If, for example, this Arcanist, Fairy Knight, was a regular mage Arcanist, you would deal fire damage and so on, okay, you would push enemies back, you would slow them down and so on with Hexias, or you would just burst them out with Firewall, with Fire Blast and so on. This was an example of a melee mage, alright. Now, as far as Vanguard goes, with Mordred, you will eliminate the closest enemy with a lightning strike or the biggest threat on the map with a lightning strike. So basically combo would be early game vulnerability into shield charge an enemy, alright, while late game combo would be vulnerability into thunderbolt. Alright, let's pretend it's early game. We're gonna cast vulnerability, we're gonna nuke this one out, and we're gonna stand close or hit the one that's down. Alright, that all depends on the situation, of course, but in this case, we just ramp up Mordred someone where the enemies are. So now there's a rogue left, you're gonna jump to the enemy, alright, you're gonna go behind. If you can hide, you're gonna hide, but they got huge detection, there's hidden, alright, you go behind the enemy, you nuke him, as you can see here, and you're gonna hide again, go to the safe spot, and so on. If you have a Sage now, you could give action points, you could freeze someone, but in case this is not a Sage but a Marksman, you're gonna try and eliminate some enemies. This is mega late game, by the way. You can make them burn, so you deal more damage against them. And then you let the turn slide, you're gonna see how Fairy Knight doesn't receive any damage. As you can see, they wasted their points on Fairy Knight. And that's how you play with Ice Shield, with Lady Morgavze, with any Sage that has Ice Shield. You put them in the middle and soak up the damage from enemies. What's the best way for you to learn how to play on a very hard difficulty? I can explain here, I can go and grab a different team, right? With Sages, with Sir Galahad, with Lancelot, with some champions, alright, and show you how to avoid damage in the first round, where to wait, how to back down, okay? Completely different tactic is when you have this aggressive team and when you have champions that are more defensive, that wait for enemies to get close and then outburst, alright? The best way for you to learn this is to check my playlist for all bosses and encounters on the channel, and you're gonna learn how to play the game properly with every class. I can explain this for the next hour, how it works, but basically the only way for you to learn is to learn how to position and to learn how to fight with those enemies, right? One last thing, make sure to like, share, subscribe this video, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.